as somebody who does a lot more field work and working with community to drive climate adaptation and mitigation, we come across several communities that are already being impacted. So think about the floods that happened in September, October, and even November last year, and across the West African coast. So several countries like Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and even Ghana were affected by those floods. And you had entire communities that were wiped away, literally wiped away by the floods. So people had to migrate. And with those migration comes, an added layer of issues. People were having to start over their livelihoods from scratch. In those sorts of situations, and while that was going on, by the way, you also had the other climate issues that were happening in other parts of the country and other parts of Africa, especially East Africa, around droughts. And so completely affecting agriculture and our food chain. So one of the work that we've been doing, even before the floods, was working with smallholder farmers in several communities on how to be more climate adaptable in their farming practices and in their food storage practices. And this work has us working with even women smallholder farmers in these communities who have been used to farming in their own indigenous ways for a long time, but also having a lot of indigenous knowledge around the weather patterns in their communities. So what we did was to come and layer on their indigenous knowledge to help build a lot more greener and sustainable farming. So teaching them how to plant their farm produce using new cropping mechanisms and using, soil overlays to help them retain their agricultural produce. And we've worked with a bunch of female farmers to do this. And we find that they're the ones who are quicker to make that shift and that adaptation. Working sometimes with in communities of families, their clans to sort of aggregate their farming and land together, and then adopting this technique so that they can get to scale. One of the things that we did in one of the communities we went to was to then layer on storage opportunities using solar to create green renewable storage for their produce. So women who farm tomatoes and pepper, and which if they don't sell in 3 days would be completely, not useful, or they will be unable to sell it to customers. So what then happens is that by providing them cold storage facilities on a lease to own basis, and they're able to store their tomatoes and pepper for about 10 days rather than 3 days. And before the 10 days, you find that they are able to sell off all of their produce rather than having a lot of waste. So you see that these are some of the things that we see as success rates that makes it imperative that we continue to work with indigenous communities, local farmers, to provide adaptation measures that will lead to food security and to also lead to better food outputs, food system output.